What's up, you guys? This is Noah DeFreitas here with Noah Fitness, and I'm bringing on my awesome friend, mentor over the last 7 years, who has opened me up to the world of bodybuilding. His name is Matt Burzacott. And just a little bit about Matt. He's been competing since the age of 18, and he's competed over 15 times since then, and has actually been the runner-up at nationals multiple times in a row, just barely not getting that pro card. If you see any of his photos, you can clearly see that he's easily pro caliber, so we're just waiting for that W to fall down. Also, he has been coaching competitors since 2009. Matt was the guy who got me in shape for my very first show. We've been in touch ever since then. And one of his biggest accomplishments to date now is taking Gerald Williams to become an IFBB so that's a professional bodybuilder, in just 20 weeks, qualifying for the Olympia as well. So super, super cool. I really wanted Matt on this show with me because I'm truly a bodybuilder at heart, and I just have such a passion for the sport. So I also know that a lot of us, we're also bodybuilders at heart, but we just don't have the right information on, what it takes to become a bodybuilder, or if you even can be a bodybuilder. And I'm here to tell you, over everything I've learned, that we totally can. And often what's missing is just the right knowledge. So that's why I'm having Matt come on here. He's somebody who really is at the top of the top level of knowledge and experience in bodybuilding. So my goal here is for Matt and I to team up so that we can just give as much information. I'm going to be asking you guys questions on what you guys want us to answer, but I just want to give everybody all the information that they need about bodybuilding to really give them an understanding about the sport and see really where they want to take it. So, Matt, again, pleasure. Thank you so much for being on here. And we just have a few questions for this first round here. So I'm just going to kind of rattle them off. I'll give my 2 cents as well, but really I want to hear your point of view and we can talk about it. But really all these questions are from just you guys. So whatever you guys have said, I'm going to put it straight out there. And if you guys need more clarity to that question, or if you ask like a higher level question, we'll just do another Q&A. Go ahead and comment below if you're on the YouTube, or if you're on Facebook, just send a comment for more clarity, and we'll go ahead and answer it on our following Q&As. And the whole goal here is to do as many of these as possible, to put as much information out there as possible so that we can help you guys in the shortest amount of time possible. But Matt, if you're ready, I'll go ahead and rock off the first question.
I'm ready to go if you are.
Sweet. Okay. Right. First question is from a man, James Mills. His first question is the most effective way to get great abs. And I think this is a super common question. I know personally, when I went to start bodybuilding, it was like abs. And I'm sure you're the same way with your clients. It's like, how do I get a 6-pack? So what advice would you have for somebody on the most effective way to get abs? And maybe like, what are the pitfalls that people get into? And should they even be looking to get abs as their first goal?
Maybe they should be looking to get abs as their first goal. Abs are like calves. So like some people either have them or they don't. Mm-hmm. And obviously we can go with the cliche answer of the abs are made in the kitchen argument. If you get lean enough, you're going to have abs. Yes. Mm-hmm. So depending on the person, I mean, if it's somebody that just they can't see their abs because it's a body fat issue, they don't really know if they have great abs or not. So step one would be obviously getting on a diet so they can eliminate that body fat to actually see what's under there. Mm-hmm. Me, myself, I mean, I've had them, I mean, pretty much since I was born, my whole life. I've never not had them. But with that being said, like if we're getting into the nitty gritty and like upper levels of bodybuilding, or not even upper levels, if you're someone that's going to get on stage, there's also different levels to that. So like me, myself, I have abs all the time, but I don't have great abs. And there's a lot of people that don't have great abs. And besides the obvious of being lean enough, you do, if you're someone that doesn't have great abs, you do have to train them just like every other muscle. I guess the training advice I would have that for abs, it's probably a little bit different. So instead of just doing like, people think they can just do like machines for abs or crunches or sit-ups. I'm a little bit more picky than that, for a couple reasons I'll get into. So when we're talking about ab training, I don't like excessive like spinal flexion. So like lumbar, lower lumbar, constant sit-ups. So your spine isn't always flexing, for a couple reasons, because there's more than just the rectus abdominis, the outer layer. Most people, I mean, you're probably common with the TVA, the transverse abdominis that lies under that. It lies right on your spine. And a lot of bodybuilders or people that work out, I see it almost everybody has it. Like, and I used to have it. This is why I fixed it, but like an anterior pelvic tilt. So
Gotcha.
people's like, if you look at like a bikini girl, like how their lower backs are always arched and their butts are always sticking out. And a lot of bodybuilders, a lot of men are like that too. And it's just from the way that we train and the way that we stand. Oftentimes our abs get weak and our glutes get weak. And if those two things are weak, your pelvis starts to, you'll hear me say, like, you want to be neutral. So you want everything in line. Like if you're standing from the side, like your head, shoulders, hips, and ankles should all be in a straight line. If you look at people, most people aren't. So stick with me here. The point I'm getting to is you can fix a lot of that through ab training. So you can kind of kill two birds with one stone. And that doesn't happen from doing, leg raises, lying leg raises, and sit-ups.
Gotcha.
You need to do more things that, I guess you'd call them more like they call them anti-extension exercises. So like if someone's like pushing you, you're fighting that. So like a plank would be like an anti-extension exercise. Or even like an ab wheel. So like instead of like crunches, I like using a traditional exercise I like using are hanging leg raises.
Gotcha.
Can't beat those. I love the ab wheel. If you don't have an ab wheel, you can make your own with you can either, if you're not very good at that, it's really hard for people at first. So you can use like a stability ball or a Swiss ball at first until you can get better and use like a barbell and put like 25s or 45s on it. I like different plank variations, but not just like traditional planks. Those can get too easy for people. You like body saw planks, just things where you're moving, or things like movement. Or if you know what a Palloff press is,
No.
that's like where you, if you stand, you can use a band or a cable, and you hold it out in front of you like this. So like the further that you hold the tension out, or the further that the tension is away from your body, it's an anti-rotation exercise. So it's going to pull you that way.
Gotcha.
Great for the abs too. It's not just obliques. Like, I'm just kind of getting off on a rant here, but I hate when I do like the side bends with weights. You'd be much better doing like an anti-rotation exercise, like a Palloff press or something like that.
Gotcha.
Actually,
I have a quick question, Matt. So from what it seems is there's basically like three kind of parts to abs. So there's one where you need to be lean enough to actually see abdominal muscle. Right. And I think that's where most people are starting is like, they're just simply not lean enough. And from what I've seen is that's the piece that a lot of people are missing is just simply getting lean enough to where they see abs. And then once you're at that state, then you can do things to enhance what you're seeing. And then beyond that, kind of what you're saying is even at a structural level, abs have a purpose. The way you even look on stage, the way your body shape is, how your biomechanics are, and that can be fixed with abs. So is that right that those three categories kind of make sense?
Yeah. Step one, get lean enough so you can see abs to know if visually or cosmetically. You could also have great abs cosmetically, but still have structural issues.
So Matt, I have a question that most people are going to ask you here. Can I train abs and lose body fat in my abdominal range?
Like training abs make you lose body fat in the abdominal region? Is that what
Yeah.
you're?
Yeah. So a
Yeah.
lot of people, like, you go into the gym
No,
and every other machine is just, like on the first pin, but the ab machine's all the way down to the bottom. And
yeah.
you can only assume that people are trying to like build abs through their body fat by like lifting heavier. Is that a thing?
Uh, yes and no. I mean, if it so, can you spot reduce body fat by training it? No.
Mhm.
But can you use resistance as a tool to get better abs? Yeah. So
Gotcha.
like if like me myself, I have abs all the time, but they're not like those deep, like Jay Cutler had like deep cuts in his abs, and he was a
Mhm.
big, or he trained abs I think every day. So there's just, what I'm saying is there's just different levels to it, and I think the way you put it was perfect. There's kind of three parts. Get lean enough to so you can even see what's going on there, and most people, the general person, will be pretty happy with that. But if you're someone that's going to get on stage, it doesn't just stop there. A general person, they'll probably be happy by just getting lean enough, seeing abs, and then the recommendations on the training I would give would kind of take care of both parts of kind of what you'd be worried about anyways.
Cool. That's awesome, man. So basically the perspective I'm kind of looking here is our audience is basically going to be like three types of people as of now. It's going to be somebody who has no idea what bodybuilding really entails, but they're interested. It's going to be somebody who's kind of deep into training and advanced, but like hasn't committed to the stage, or it's somebody who's seasoned, who's bodybuilding already, but they want to take it to the next level. So I think if we're kind of breaking it down for all three, we're going to catch a lot of people here with some value. So I think we caught it perfectly there. So I'll go on to the next question. And this is from John Benici. And this is a great one. This is something I was stuck on so many times, and I still kind of get down this path here. He's asking how to bulk with minimum fat gain, and really a lot of the times we just hear eat more calories, and then we're like, cool, like pizza all day long, and I'm gonna get huge. But then we just start seeing fat come on, and I know personally that was a tough part when I first started. Is I would try to gain this muscle because a lot of us, of course, we don't start with a ton of muscle. So it's like, well, I need to get big. I see these guys, in the magazines or on Instagram, they clearly have double the muscle that I have. So I need to get there somehow. And we typically start, but we just get super fat and discouraged. And really, we don't know where to go from there. So the question is how do you actually gain this muscle without gaining so much fat? Do you have any tips there for our audience?
Yeah, I mean what you said is, God, it's so common. I think everybody does that unless you are an ectomorph, a true ectomorph like I was. You're not going to get away with that because you're looking at what these people are eating that already have 200 plus pounds of lean body mass on them, and then you're 150 or 60 pounds. You can't, of course, if you eat what they're eating, then you're going to get, I mean, you're going to put some muscle on, but you're going to get pretty fat as well. So let's answer this for people that are not ectomorphs, the outliers. Um, and there's really, unfortunately, I think people are going to get, I don't want to say discouraged, but like a lot of my answers, I don't have like any sexy, like super tricks, because I think what people are going to get out of this is there really are no secrets, unfortunately. But you have to treat your diet to gain lean mass with minimal body fat accumulation. You have to treat your diet just like a pre-contest bodybuilder would treat their diet, and that's really it. So you have to sit down, and whether you want to use the different formulas that are out there to try to establish. I start with calories first. So there's two things that you need to start with. Figure out how many calories approximately that you need to eat per day. and then how much protein do you need to eat per day. So I always say, I always just start usually with a gram, maybe gram and a quarter per pound of body weight is a safe place to start for across the board, male or female. From there, you pretty much, if people don't understand this, we'll just break this down for beginners, because a lot of people still don't understand that your three macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats, that's what makes up your calories. Okay. So I think just getting that base of knowledge and understanding that goes a long ways. So if something has 50 grams of protein, in a gram of protein, there's 4 calories. So there's 200 calories. And I know you probably teach all your people this, I'm guessing.
To some degree. I try not to go super deep, but this is great stuff. So yeah, go ahead.
So carbs are 4 calories per gram. Fat is 9 calories per gram. So that is where, that's where the low fat diet, came to play, because, with fat having more than double the amount of calories per gram, kind of by default, you kind of have to eat a low fat diet in order to caloric deficit. But let's say, and I don't want people to get some people most of the time get, what is that phrase? Paralysis by analysis or whatever. They sit down and they think they're going to come up with these perfect numbers, and it's not going to happen. Just start with something. So let's say you come up with, 3,000 calories is what you're going to eat. And you are, let's say you're 200 pounds, you're going to eat around 200 grams of protein. So there's your starting point. So you've got 800 calories from protein. You've got 2,200 calories left to eat to fill in from carbs and fat. And then from there, nutrient timing is going to be very, very important when trying to add lean body mass without accumulating much body fat. And what I mean by nutrient timing is mostly, when do you want the majority of your carbohydrates to be in your daily diet? I feel for somebody that gains fat easier, I think breakfast or meal one can be a carb heavy meal. Your pre-training meal, the meal before you work out, can also be carb heavy, but not ridiculously carb heavy, because you don't want to be too sluggish or too full when you go to the gym. Post out obviously is when you can put in the most carbohydrates, for people that don't know, because that's when you're lifting weights, you're using glycogen, which is stored carbohydrates, during the workout. After you work out, you have what are called GLUT4 receptors that come present to the muscle cell that can basically take the carbohydrates you eat, and without insulin even being present, it can take them and put them back in the muscle cells. So post-workout would be a good time for carb heavy. And then if you train hard enough, even the meal after your post-workout meal can be really heavy in carbs.
So when you're saying to put carbs around certain areas, is this a strategy so that you're actually limiting the amount of body fat accumulation on, say, the meals that you don't have carbs?
Yeah, it's a way to control insulin. Obviously, when insulin is present, so your body produces insulin every time you eat, and it's going to produce more the more carbohydrates you eat to take the blood sugar that's in your, or take the glucose that's in your blood and get it to wherever it needs to go. When insulin is also present, insulin's job is to store everything. So it's not going to put everything into muscle cells. It's going to put as much as it can into muscle cells, but once those are full, that's when you start storing body fat. So the nutrient timing, the idea behind nutrient timing is to control insulin levels. So I guess let's kind of break this down how you did the ab thing. There's a few different parts. One, we need to determine calories. So obviously, if you're building muscle, you need to be in some type of surplus. The key is, to not gain too much body fat, is you kind of have to find a sweet spot of whatever that calorie range is. So let's say including all of your activity throughout the day. Let's say this person's burning 2,500 a day. That's why they picked 3,000. Usually a 500 calorie surplus is pretty safe. But you might find that, you might try it and you might find that you can eat more than that. It's just, that's why the key is that after you set all this up, you have to be meticulous and you have to follow it every single day. If there's days where you don't, you're not even going to get, accurate feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So step 1 is calories. Step 2 is protein. Step 3 is nutrient timing, and where are you strategically going to put carbohydrates into your diet. And then, I guess I would recommend it's as simple as the meals that you have carbohydrates in your diet for these people, have very low fat in those meals, and the meals that you are not putting carbohydrates, put some healthy fats in those meals.
Perfect. Yeah, I agree with all that. And that's really where I see people get stuck as well. One, they don't know where to start. Typically, they either start too high or too low. But the biggest piece is that they're just not starting at all, or they'll start for a little bit and then second guess themselves. And then when they do get started, they're not actually monitoring what's happening with their body. They might just start accumulating a bunch of body fat, and they're not taking their calories down. They just keep shoveling down food thinking, the more the better. So being meticulous and actually having that feedback of what you need to do, I think that's truly the hardest part. And, that's where us as coaches really have that value of being the person that says, you got to tone it down. You got to actually cut these down. When you're your own, worst enemy, it's like, should I keep going? Am I doing too little? It just really matters, where you are on that spectrum. And then, of course, the macros as well. One thing I commonly find is, we truly underestimate how much protein we need to really build muscle tissue. We assume that, like, if I could go out to eat, I'm going to be getting enough protein. And that's just not out there. You're not going to be getting even close to 1 gram per pound of body weight in your normal diet. So if you're not eating protein, like carbs and fats, they're not going to help that much to add real muscle tissue. So you're just going to be building body fat even in a surplus. So that's where those macros, they're so important. And then finally, nutrition timing. And this is where we're starting to get into like people who may have already stepped on stage or are super advanced. But I would argue that, like, if you're beginning, you need to just understand what sort of surplus you need to be in and how to adjust that surplus. Does that sound right?
Yeah, if you're a beginner, I would say, like, if you're just starting and you, like, let's say, and it depends on the person too. You have to know yourself. So, like, if it's too extreme of a change for somebody to go from, like, not tracking food at all to all of a sudden you're introducing them to, well, you have to eat this many carbs a day, this many protein, this many, that's too much for people a lot of times. So what I'll tell people to start is figure out your calories and figure out your protein. Track those 2 things, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Start. So, if you track your calories and you track your protein, you're going to be in a pretty good spot. But then it just comes down to doing it. And then once they get used to that, then we can maybe get into the other stuff, because they're still going to have really good results from going from not following any type of plan to at least, consistently nailing down protein and calories every day.
100%.
And then to max out their results with that, you always kind of want to be doing the smallest amount that's still going to yield the same results, if that makes sense. So, someone just starting out, they're going to get major results for a long time. I mean, for months, if they just track calories and protein.
Gotcha.
And then if they get used to that and they want to take it a step further, well, then we can get into nutrient timing and really being picky about food sources and that kind of stuff.
Perfect. Awesome. So if you guys heard that, basically you want to really think about calories and protein. If you're not consistent with that, don't even think any further. And then once you are super good at that, then it's starting to think about, where am I going to put those macronutrients, whether it's the carb timing or where you're going to start cutting back on carbs. So super awesome. Now, is there, like, I know a lot of people are kind of ethereal when they go about bulking. Is there like a rule of thumb to say like, what's just too fat? You know, clearly you're not going to be ripped, you know, when you're gaining, right? It's not so I want you to answer that. Should you be ripped when you gain muscle all the time? And if not, what's like too fat? What's like the happy medium, or is there one?
Oh, there definitely is one, which I would say is between, for men, like 10 and 14% body fat, 10 and 13 ideal. So what that looks like is, going back to the first question, you should see an outline of abs. And you should see, and it depends because people distribute body fat differently. So like, you know, a lot of guys, most guys, it's the majority of it's the midsection.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say the same rule applies. You still, even for those people, you still want to see the outline of your abs, and you don't want anything like hanging over your underwear, like, you know, love handles or anything like that. That's too fat. That's in a spot where if we want to get into deeper things, you know, hormonally, you're probably not in a good spot. You're probably a little bit insulin resistant, and those people don't need to be in a surplus. If that's the issue, they need to be in a deficit until those things are corrected.
Okay, that was my next question, because a lot of us were in like the dreaded skinny fat look. You know, we don't have muscle, but we're fat too. So
Right.
like, what's the answer to all of our skinny fat people listening here? Where do we go? You know, we desperately want to have that muscle, so we feel great, we feel powerful, and the last thing we want to do is cut down even more and feel scrawny. Like, where, you know, that's like a huge sticking point. So what do the skinny fat people do?
Well, I'm assuming, so if someone's skinny fat, I'm assuming they're probably not really training, or if they are training, they're just maybe not training properly. So you can kind of just set people at like a maintenance level calorie wise. I wouldn't go like, I think the biggest mistake those people make is they go too extreme one way or the other. So they either go into way too much of a surplus, or they're like, I'm skinny fat and I'm going to get like shredded first. And then they just eat like nothing. And then, you know, not much happens. They're not gaining any muscle tissue. They're probably losing body fat, but they're not getting any muscle. I love working with skinny fat people at first because they make huge changes. If you set them more of a, you know, if they just track their calories and set it at like a maintenance and the protein, and you get them training properly and training hard, they absolutely, you will see them lose body fat and gain muscle at the same time. So their weight will kind of stay the same. So that way they don't feel like I'm getting smaller, and visually they'll see changes in the mirror. But for those people, I think just setting them right around maintenance and getting enough protein and fixing their training is where you start with them.
Awesome. I think that was huge. I know a lot of the people I talk to kind of fit that category. So this is awesome news. I was personally a skinny fat person. Nothing wrong with that. It's just, you know, we all have the cards that we're dealt. And often we think just high or low, but the middle ground being the answer, that can truly help a lot of people to know that if I just get started with a maintenance calories, you might get the best of both worlds, where you're gaining muscle and losing fat, and that can kind of iron itself out for the next steps. Is that correct?
Just follow a sensible diet and train your balls off. People, and that's the other thing that's annoying about today, is people really undervalue training. And I don't, really hard training can mitigate a lot of these issues. Like, you know, people always say you can't out train a poor diet. I wouldn't totally agree with that. You kind of almost can, I feel like. I'm not going to say that you can totally out train a poor diet. It depends how poor that diet is, but you can come pretty close if you train really hard.
Okay, awesome. And I want to leave everybody who's watching this on a cliffhanger, because if you're interested in training, we're going to do one more question here. I want you to let us know in the comments if you want to hear any questions on training, how to optimize training, and we will do an entire video on training. So Matt, I know that's going to be a mile deep, but I think that's perfect. That's got me on the edge of my seat. I want to hear about that. So let's add ask what specifically they want to know, and let's make one specifically on some training topics with how you can out-train a diet. But the last question here I want to ask is from my man Rajiv. He's asking the importance of cardio. What's too much and what's too little?
This is going to get my answers are never black and white, unfortunately for people. So I'm sorry, but it's going to depend on what your goal is. So, I mean, if your goal is to be a marathon runner, then I don't know that there is too much. Let's assume that he just wants to have, a lean muscular build.
Yep. So that's going to be the major assumption, is they want some sort of bodybuilding look. So yeah, I think that's perfect right there.
People put so my answer is people put way too much emphasis on cardio. I try to not have people do too much. Unfortunately, you had to do more than I wanted you to do this last prep, but you got to do what you got to do in a prep. That kind of, the rules kind of get thrown out the window for a prep. But for a general person, I think they rely on it way too much. You have to remember, cardio is just another tool. There's nothing magical about it. All it is you're using it to burn more calories to create a bigger deficit. If you're looking at it from a fat burning perspective, I think cardio is more important for what its intended purpose is, and that's to improve your cardiovascular health.
Okay. Now let me challenge you with this question real quick.
Yeah.
Can I get ripped without cardio?
Yes. I have prepped multiple people that have done no cardio the whole prep.
Gotcha. So would you say people should focus more on the nutrition end before they even start getting into cardio? Because what I found is really, unless you're already burning body fat, you could be so high over calories that really all you are doing is getting that cardiovascular effect. And I know that's important, but when it comes to physique building and cosmetic, performance and the look, you're not going to get that look unless you kind of already have that deficit. Is that right? Yeah.
And also when I first started, they're always like, forgot cardio. And I'm like, I don't want you to do any cardio right now. I want the least amount of variables going on with someone's body as I can possibly have at first. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what you just said. Let's nail down this diet first, and then let's see what happens from that.
Gotcha.
And then the way I like to implement cardio is I don't really want to put it in. I try not to put it in until someone gets stuck. Until someone gets stuck, and I don't want to take any more food away from them. Because you have to remember, the weight room is our weight training sessions is the most important piece for us, going back to the value of training. Mm-hmm. If you're not eating enough food, you're not gonna train optimally. And if you're not training optimally, everything gets thrown off. So, gotcha. That feeling just when you're in a groove, you're probably in it right now, where you just feel you're training hard, when everything's on point. I mean, things are just rolling. You can feel it. It's a feeling. Mm-hmm. And if you're taking someone's food too low and they're not able to train optimally, you don't have that feeling. You just feel like you went through the motions and nothing's really happening. You just feel stagnant.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So let's take two people here. Let's take somebody who's a beginner. Let's say, what's the biggest mistakes you can make with cardio, and what cardio makes sense for somebody who's just generally trying to look good? And now let's take somebody who's a competitor, and really what mistakes are they making for cardio, and what actually is what really makes more sense with cardio? What's a sensical approach? Because one thing I even personally, as a competitor, I keep getting people telling me kick your ass on the stair mill, kick your ass on the stair mill. And I'm still I'm torn between it. I'm am I just going to be burning muscle by just going, I'm already in this crazy caloric deficit. Do I really need to kill myself on cardio? or can I just kind of chill out and let the diet and a little bit of cardio work itself through? So whichever one you want to take first, like what's the biggest mistakes as a beginner, or what's the biggest mistakes as a competitor?
I think they both make the same mistake, actually. I think
Okay.
they both put too much emphasis on it and do too much of it. It's like they're like conserving their energy for cardio. I would rather you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
would rather not sandbag your weight training session, like let's go all out in the weights and then let's chill out on the cardio. And not that I think that you should, I mean, since we work together, but I'm not saying that you can walk on the treadmill at 2 miles an hour and be comfortable. It needs to be somewhat uncomfortable, but I don't think you have to do high intensity intervals all the time either. It just, it impacts your recovery. You're just not able to recover too much. So I think the mistake is they probably do too much and they probably do it too hard. They're just putting too much emphasis on that. I would put the least amount of emphasis on cardio out of the three things.
Gotcha. Now, do you have any, like, I know people are just they love numbers. Do you have anything that like makes like that you just find to be the best? I know everybody's different, but like where is the optimal level? Some people think like most people when they begin, they think like running is cardio. And then you look at people who are like bodybuilders, and I really haven't seen a bodybuilder ever run. So
I
I mean,
you know what? I heard that Dorian jogged.
oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really doing cardio first.
Holy crap. I couldn't
But
imagine at like 250 just
I,
jogging.
but I would like I would like to ask him someday and find out. Because if that's true, that kind of just throws everything out the window. But Dorian did it, like imagine
Uh-huh.
Dorian jogging on a treadmill. That's like hilarious to
That'd
me.
be
But
nuts.
numbers wise, I know, yeah, people are going to want specifics. I think that a good place, I think heart rate is a good way to maybe just kind of look at it. Uh, a definite, like a number that people can look at, but like anywhere, if you want to do cardio, maybe just hang around anywhere from 120 to 140 beats per minute, somewhere in there. So it's difficult, but it's not overly strenuous. And I would say 20 to 40 minutes, anywhere in there, 2 to 4 times a week. You would get all the benefits you need if
Awesome.
your diet and training's on point. Now, when people where cardio can be useful, let's say you slip up on your diet one day and you eat a couple donuts, then maybe it might not be a bad idea to go get on the stair climber and try to burn off, however many calories those donuts were.
Gotcha. Now here's the thing
That's useful.
I sometimes find though, is some people sometimes start to rely
I
on
know.
doing that.
Don't do that. Yeah.
And it's not uncommon, right? It's
No,
most
it's very,
people, they now
very,
eat donuts and try to do double cardio. And where does that typically lead?
it doesn't work the same. You would think on paper, you would think that it's gonna cancel out, but it doesn't. And I don't have the scientific response as to why, but it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So I'm glad you said that. You cannot. That's why I don't really tell people that that's an option, because then they will start to rely on that, because then they'll think that that's okay, but it does not yield the same results. It doesn't.
Gotcha. Yep. And this is one of the things I want to just point out before we kind of wrap up here is bodybuilding is an art and a science. A lot of people don't understand that like even no matter how much science we have, we only have so much. And this is where experience trumps everything, because you've melded the both. Because there are certain things that no matter how much data we have now, we just don't have enough to explain why certain things work certain ways. So this is
Yeah.
where, having somebody like why I work with Matt, you've been in this game for nearly 2 decades now. And just that level of experience, you get to see things that maybe work on paper, but just don't apply in real life. I
Yeah.
remember one time I was prepping and I was eating very low calorie foods, but my body was not dropping weight. And it just wasn't making sense. And I cut out those foods, even though it was only 5-10 calories, and my body let go. It may have not been body fat. It may have been water. It probably was water, but like that stuff didn't add up on paper. But
Right.
because, you know, through experience, say, hey, you know what, maybe that thing doesn't make sense. Just like some people with like food allergies or dairy. Sure, sometimes you just need experience to say, typically people who maybe eat ice cream or cheese might have, you know, trouble losing weight because of digestion, etc. So would you agree with that, that like it needs to be held between the art and science?
Yeah, I would 1,000,000% agree with that, because, and also too, the science is always behind what we're already doing. So just because something isn't scientifically proven yet doesn't mean it doesn't work.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, there's studies that come out all the time that I see that I'm like, well, yeah, no shit. We've known that for 10 years.
uh-huh.
So the science is always way behind what bodybuilders have and always will be on the cutting edge of doing everything first when it comes to doing anything to enhance a physique. You know, I mean, how long did it take for the general public to understand that? You know, I think we're just now, people are just it's starting to become pretty mainstream that protein's important, and that, you know, low carbohydrate diets work, and or the opposite, you know, people for a while like, oh, carbs are bad, carbs are bad. I think people are starting to understand that carbs aren't bad. It's just you need to know, you know, where to implement them and how to implement them, and depending on what your goal is. But, you know, or that fat, you know, fat's bad, you know, that's a big one too. You know, we've known that, bodybuilders have known this forever, but, you know, it takes years for the science to catch up to what has already been going on for years.
Mm-hmm. And I can definitely agree to that as well. One thing that say you're not a bodybuilder or just haven't thought about this, but bodybuilders are the greatest scientists when it comes to this stuff, because we eat the same things every single day. We're the
Yeah.
only group of people that do that, so we can isolate one variable at a time. And just even from a health standpoint, we have to deal with, you know, different hormonal things, and we have to be very, very attuned to our health. And the things that the bodybuilding community have found in the health field that just aren't even close to mainstream, that are just natural remedies for many of the ailments that we have, is insane. How to control cholesterol, how to control your liver enzymes, your kidney function, all these things we understand how to control even naturally, because we can isolate variables. We don't have the person who's a bodybuilder typically that's like still drinking or doing recreational drugs. Sure, there's those people, but mainly bodybuilders don't have much of a life besides eating the same dang, you know, chicken and rice meals. So
Yeah.
add something in and you get a direct impact. And that's one of the things that truly made me really love bodybuilding is how you are this scientist. And I think this is where we can, you know, like get results so quickly, is that we learn how to monitor our body on a meal by meal, a calorie by calorie, protein by protein basis. And that's typically what people are missing. That's where we're not seeing, you know, the crazy results just working on our own. And that's where I think working with somebody who understands bodybuilding, that's where you get the results even faster. Say you're not even like competing. And I always like to disclaim this personally, and I don't know what your opinion is here, Matt, but like, for me, a bodybuilder is not somebody who steps on stage. A bodybuilder is anybody who wants to transform their physique, you know, enhance their physique.
Yeah.
And that's where I think bodybuilding is the most popular sport in the world. There's a reason why Arnold is so freaking popular, because we all want that kind of stuff. And that's why I truly wanted to pair up with you and get information out there, because we are all interested in bodybuilding, but it's such a ethereal thing. I wish bodybuilding came mainstream one day. although there's so many taboo factors about it, but
Yeah.
it's something we all want, and there's so little information. It takes somebody like you who's been in this industry for 20 years, who knows so much that they can apply this and get those crazy results. So yeah, would you agree that
Well,
bodybuilders
uh,
don't have to step on stage?
yeah, think about it this way. How many people, I think almost the entire population of people would benefit from following a bodybuilding diet, right?
Mhm.
Who wouldn't benefit from that? Because what we have figured out is we have actually figured out the science of food. We figured out how to eat instead of, following a diet with a label. Like we don't
Mhm.
need to follow a diet. We just know how to eat, right? And that's the difference. Everybody in the world would benefit from that, you know,
100%.
from just understanding food and knowing how to manipulate it, not trying to follow a South Beach diet or a keto diet or a Mediterranean diet or a paleo diet or a whatever the fuck diet.
Mhm.
It's you've got your macronutrients. We won't even get into micronutrients because that's a whole nother topic. But if you can just understand macronutrients and calories, that's all you need to know really. And then how to that's what dieting is, and that's what nutrition is, and that's all bodybuilders have figured out how to do. So everybody would benefit from that. Unfortunately, people hear the word bodybuilder and they only think of, people on stage, which is a whole nother level of dedication.
Mhm.
A whole nother level. That's taking everything to the extreme. And then of course, we're putting supplements into the equation there.
Mhm.
So, my favorite is, I don't know if you get this yet, but I've been getting it for years. People say, well, I want to get bigger, but I don't want to look like you, right?
Uh-huh.
It's like, well, thank you, appreciate that, but you're not going to. And unfortunately, people use that as a cop out, like it's already, because they don't want to put in the work, so they just never start, because
Uh-huh.
they're lying to themselves saying, well, if I do what that guy's doing, I'm going to end up looking like him.
Mhm.
You know, they don't see what I've been doing for how many years now? 23 years, and they think that they're going to follow a bodybuilding diet and lift weights and look like a pro bodybuilder in a year. And the truth is, if normal everyday people that just want to build an awesome physique, which I think what most people are chasing is
Mhm.
the most muscular, leanest version of themselves. That's ultimately what people want.
Mhm.
They need to be doing the same things that competitive bodybuilders are doing, and they will achieve that as quickly as they can. But what people do is, instead they've got all the answers right in front of them. Like, here's us giving people the answers,
Mhm.
but watch this and say, well, I don't want to look like them, so I'm not, that must not apply to me. I'm going to buy the South Beach diet book. That would be better for me.
Yep. Yep.
I'm trying to accomplish. And then what happens to those people is they end up looking the same for, 32 years, and they never accomplish the body that they want.
I'm super glad you brought this up. And the way I like to look at it is, people, like you just said, they don't understand how long it takes to even look like this. The bodybuilders, back in the day, for those who are watching right now, bodybuilding, just to become a pro bodybuilder, used to be a 15-year journey. That was just the thing. You said
Absolutely.
you got to be competing for 15 years to even have a chance at becoming a pro. Back in the day, we still had the 10,000 hour work ethic, and bodybuilders are just a result of that 10,000 hour work ethic. So the thing is, though, bodybuilding is the fastest way to get there. We've optimized all variables. So it's just like anything in sports. Say you just want to get good at playing football. If you got taught by the best of the best in football, you'd probably bridge the gap as quickly as possible to get
Yeah.
there. And that's not
Right.
saying, it's going to come in a year or 2 years even, or even 5 years, who knows? But if you get taught by the best of the best and what they do, you're going to bridge that gap quickest. And what people are missing is that if you're not optimizing, transforming your body in the fastest way possible, which bodybuilding is exactly that. You're taking something that took us 10, 20 years, and you're now making that exponential. You're now making that a 30-year journey. So
well, you're never even going to get their journey.
it's that, yeah, it really is.
And not only that, we haven't even brought up genetics yet.
Oh yeah.
So that's when it comes down to who is the cream of the crop in bodybuilding, genetics are the number one most important thing.
Yeah.
There's just no doubt about it. I mean, there's no way around it. All of the guys at the Olympia, they have elite genetics, all of them. So you've got regular people that are well below, having good genetics, because if they had great genetics, they would be having this conversation.
Uh-huh.
So they don't necessarily have very good genetics, and they're worrying about looking like somebody that was basically born to be a bodybuilder, that it easy to them. All of this comes easy to them. They might not even have to really diet that hard. They may not have to eat that much, and they're really muscular. They may not train that hard, and they're even up there. So there's that whole aspect too. The people that are still out there wondering what they need to do, they don't have good genetics, so they don't need to worry about that. They need to just be worrying about, doing the exact same things that the top bodybuilders are doing. They're just, all that's going to do is help them get to what they want to look like.
Exactly.
And what they're picturing in their mind of what they want to look like, it can probably happen. They just have this mental, warfare of I think they just need maybe someone to tell them what we just said, maybe.
And one thing I like to tell somebody who is concerned, saying, well, yeah, I want to get to some level, but I don't want to go that far. How, for one, we've established it is much more difficult. It's a much longer process. It does not happen overnight. I tell people there's not a single bodybuilder who woke up one day and said, holy crap, where did these muscles come from? Never once has that ever happened in the history of time. And two, say you get a little too big somehow. How easy would it be to lose that muscle?
Extremely easy. It's unfortunately extremely easy to lose muscle.
So there you have it. It's super hard to get, super easy to lose. So nobody listening has to worry about getting too big. All you're doing when you're getting into the realm of bodybuilding is optimizing that process. Bodybuilders have optimized the process of changing the body. So I think that's an awesome place to end. What I want to do is just ask you, Matt, if anybody is interested in getting in contact with you, what's the best way somebody can get into contact with you?
Either Instagram, it's just my name, matt.burzacott, Burzacott, or email mattb@camp-jansen.com.
Sweet. Cool. And for anybody who loved what they just heard, they want to learn more about bodybuilding, have further questions, what I want you to do is just comment below this video or go ahead and hit subscribe on my YouTube channel. It's still new, but we're going to be growing here. And finally, Matt, do you have any parting words or anything you want to add before we wrap up here?
No, I want to thank you for asking me to do this, because you've been somebody, I don't know if you remember this, but I mean, I even remember meeting with you when we were both working downtown in Des Moines.
Mm-hmm.
We met for lunch, and you were really pushing me to use social media, and and you my personality, and I don't like really giving my opinion unless I'm asked.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to thank you for asking me to do this, because it's exactly what I need to do, because there can never be too much good information out.
Mm-hmm.
But I also wouldn't do things like this unless somebody was forcing me to. So
Sweet, man.
thank you for forcing me out of my comfort zone and getting me talking in front of a camera.
Oh, 100%. And it's a must, man. Being in this industry and understanding how rare true knowledge and true experience is in the realm of bodybuilding. There's a reason you're integrated with the top of the top, because you're there. And it's a sin not to get this information out, because there's so many people, like I said, anybody like me who's just obsessed with this. I grew up, obsessed with superheroes, how they look. There's just something awesome about putting in the time and the dedication to your body to transform that body, because now you're a testament of hard work. And, so many of us, we try and try and try, but yet we see so little results that we say, hey, it's not for me. And I can't tell you how close I was to being that person until I met you, until you got me past the point of where I would have given up literally 5 times over. And then there I am sitting on stage, going, oh my gosh, I did it. This scrawny guy who was picked last on sports, literally would just be like, why couldn't I ever look like that? To saying, holy crap, I can. Now getting ready to go for the Arnold Amateur, eventually shooting for a pro card. These are things I would have never thought possible if it weren't for meeting people like you. So it's truly a pleasure. And just getting this information out to anybody else to change their life, I think is a mission accomplished for me, because it's changed my life. And if I could give anybody what I've gotten, it's really a mission accomplished. So again, Matt, thank you so much for hopping on. Let's go ahead and do these as many times as you want. I'm about frequency. I want everybody getting loaded with information. I want everybody to feel supported and just rock their goals. There's no reason we should be wasting time. If you're interested in bodybuilding and just changing your body to develop it in whatever way you want, to optimizing your physique, just reach out to Matt or I, and we'll get you started. No use wasting time. But on that note, Matt, again, a pleasure and honor. Let's go ahead and get connected. We'll reach out for more questions, and we'll be on shortly, guys. So you guys have an awesome one, and we'll see you soon.